is Monday. In terms of like criteria or sort of the way the test, the format of the test is just another test, but it is counted differently in that there are 3 tests and the final counts twice, and then of those, then 5 scores, the lowest one gets dropped. You don't have to tell me which one that is. Excel will figure it out for me. We know what we're expecting. We are expecting 2 problems. In each problem, you're going to fetch a file. In one time, the file is going to be a sort of plain text file that has to be parsed, probably twice. So it'll probably be parse it on lines, and then do a second parse on some delimiter. And it's different every time, so you got to look at the file. And then the other problem will be JSON file. And so then, oh, and when you are parsing this file, you will be using it to make objects of a class that you write. Whereas with the JSON, the file has a lot of structure, and then all that content of the file is sort of given to you more automatically. So you're not as responsible for the parsing or the creation of the objects. It gets created from the JSON more automatically. And then that leaves me time to do more of other things with the code. So it's just our chance one last time to practice or to ask questions. So if you have questions, ask them. If not, we'll pick something to practice on. So I see no questions. So practice problems, what do we have? We need, of course, data and posting some data to be practiced on lately. Actually did. From this Monday, we never worked with Hey You, which is not Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd songs, film noir, TED Talks, insects, books, and some of them are JSON and some of them are text files. JSON, you want to practice text files, or do you have like one of those topics? And that was interesting too. Text. So you want text. So film noir is out because that was JSON. I don't know if this was Pink Floyd, that was text. That's not a JSON file, or I would probably give it a JSON extension. So that's a possibility. Or TED Talks, that was, I think, text. And one of these, I think books was JSON and insects was text. Pink Floyd, TED Talks, insects. TED Talks, okay. All right, so on, what was that? Tuesday, I posted TED Talks, objects from plain text, okay. So bringing that down. Extract, let me grab that folder and put it in my 230. And then bring up code. See, TED Talk. I have a start. Okay. So I brought that stuff over, I unzipped it, I brought it over. some people, not too many, but some people missed, and I gave them a head start on the last test. Big oversight. Especially I don't want to use, if I have a grid, I don't want you to spend all your time making the grid. Give you the grid. So that's what I have here so far, is some kind of grid with, actually have some YouTube-y things sort of half ready to go. Okay. So let's see, let me format it. And let's look at this text file. And I should also open up the Word document. That's not what I want. I want the extracted. This was some old stuff, so I made it with a table originally. Okay. But let's see, there's a head start. We're going to use it. We're going to add a title. I'm going to collapse the style for a minute. I need to add a title tag. And let's usually put your name in there. There we go. And then the header will be the same. All right, so use do that. That's an obnoxious color. And I did the header. I need an HTML comment, and I'm going to change the background, the colors. Okay. HTML comment. You can put almost anywhere. At that point. And the color. So that was in style. The overall color of the page is body. And I want to do the background color. What do I want? Dark goldenrod. And the color is a dark green. That will look terrible. Good. All right. So here's my page, terrible as expected. All right. And so I got the HTML comment and this. Okay. Now, using the format provided, add the elements to what's above. I think I already did, except what's missing. I have the select. I have the iframe. I have the drop downs. So I think I already did that. So I already have the elements. Let's see if they have IDs. We know we're going to be coding them. Let's collapse this style. And what did we have? We had a selected, has an ID already, select title. Did too much for you. I have a span for the runtime. I have a span for the author. I have a span for the views. I have a span for the description. I'm doing too much work for you. I have a select minimum, a select maximum. I have a text area I called it the cart. And there was, all right, so it seems I gave most of the things IDs, so there wasn't anything to do there. We should have the drop-down select. We should have the iframe. We should have the author, the runtime. I have places for all those things, 2 drop-downs, text area. Was it read-only? Did I do that for you? I didn't do that for you, so it should be read-only. and then start a script. So let's get moving on, start a script. So script, get an HTML, a JavaScript comment. So I started a script and put my name at the top. Okay, make a JavaScript class with these properties. Okay, so now we need to make a class. We make a decision whether we want the class in the same file or if we want it in a separate file. Separate file, okay. So we're going to make a separate JS file. So let me come here in TED Talk and hit this little plus, and I'm going to call it TED class.js. And then I'm going to make a class called TED class. And it's going to have a constructor and that is where we're going to make the class. And then let's do what we've usually done before. What we've usually done before is make a constructor where we set all the properties in the constructor. It doesn't have to be like that. There are other possible ways to make the constructor, but that's the way we've made the constructor before. And let's see what we've got. I'm going to grab this from here if I can, put it here. And I don't want the and, of course. I don't want the period. But what did I have? I don't want a colon. But I have a TED rank, a TED title, a TED author, a TED time, a TED views, a TED description, a TED YouTube. And so that was obnoxious, but then we'll say let this dot TED rank equal TED rank. I don't think it's in the way. This. No. Go. TED. Thank you. And then how many of them do I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it was title is title. Author is author. Time is time. Views. Views is views. These don't have to be the same. This has to match what's up here. But the name you give it here does not have to be the same. I'm making it the same. That's just a possible choice. I think I have TED rank, TED title, TED author, TED time, TED views. Maybe I have too many. Description and YouTube. And you got to watch me because I'm not always consistent. YouTube with a capital Y, but a small t. Not YouTube. YouTube, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I have class. So I have this external file. It doesn't have to be that way. That's what was requested. We're doing a very simple class. That's what we've always done, a fairly simple class, where we just have a constructor and set up the properties. You can have much more to a class, and when you take your object-oriented programming course, you will see that. But for us, just to have the data collected together will be enough. And let's go back to the TED start. And I'm going to, if I have a separate file, I'm going to have another script tag, and that script tag is going to have a source, and that's going to be the name of the JS file. Now, most people have been good when they send me stuff, they are zipping it up, but occasionally somebody just sends me a bunch of bare files. If you were to do this, you cannot send me a bare JS file. The email system will reject it, and then I won't be able to see your code, and I won't be able to grade. And if you've already left and flown off to go to another country or whatever, then we're kind of screwed, and I'll just have to make up your grade. I'll make it up to be an F or something. So just don't make that mistake. All right. All right. So one thing you can do, well, just zip them up and make sure everything's in there. Including the images, including the text file. There is, when you write code that talks about other files, there's a relationship between the code file and the other files. And so you're supposed to send me everything, not just because it's more convenient for me, which it is, but also to prove that you have the structure, that the structure you were working in is the structure that corresponds to your code. Okay. And so we wrote a JavaScript class with the following properties. I think we've done that. When the page starts, so again, that is either code that is not in a function or code that's in a function that's called by the onload method of the body, which is what you guys usually go for. And we'll call it populate because that's what you usually call it. So let's go for consistency. And what you want to do to prepare for the exam, maybe take a practice, maybe do an old lab or an old homework, or maybe work with the new data that I gave you and make up either, if I have a description of what to do, do it, or otherwise make up your own thing. But you also want to organize. Here are my problems that read text. Here are my files that read JSON. So we have lots and lots of programs by this stage. If you're not organized and you spend too much time looking around, you're going to run out of time. Okay, so know off the top of your head, here are all my JSON examples. Here are all my text examples. Okay, so we're going to run populate. Okay, I'm going to read a file. So I need that structure where I'm fetching. So I'm going to grab some example of fetching. Let's fetch here. Here is fetching text. Again, you've got to distinguish between fetching JSON and fetching text because they're different. But this is from the matrix. That's probably not the best example, but I found it fast, so it's handy. And I'm going from fetch on down. And I'm going to paste this over in TED in populate. And then I'm probably going to, for the most part, gut some of it. I'm not going to be shuffling. And I am going to be doing some kind of parsing, but Okay, so I took a working program and now I've got to come over here and do what? I am reading TED.txt, small t. That's the file I'm reading. So change the fetch, TED. So I'm fetching TED.txt. The first then just sends the text on. Then the next one, because it was text, it starts to split it. It's splitting it on the return character and new line character. And we want to do that. It is line delimited. The first delimiter is lines, separate lines. So that's good for us. We want that. And Q stuff. Do we want to call it Q stuff? No, let's call it, I don't know, TED stuff. And so now we are looping over TED stuff. And so we did our first parsing that made, I called it TED stuff. That's something that we're going to have and then immediately throw away. And now we've got to look, the next thing after we start looping over TED stuff is to to split it on the second delimiter, and we have to know what that is. It was a vertical bar. That changes all the time. If I have very simple information, a standard thing to do is commas. But if I have any kind of description, that there's often commas in description, then I can't use a comma, then I need something else. So this is a thing that changes. You have to be on the lookout for the things that change. Okay. And back here, when we were doing the matrix, we were still back in our parallel array mode. We don't want that. We want to use pieces in our constructor to make objects of our class and in an array. So I want to declare an array. So let, you want to call it talks, or you want to call it TED Talks, or we just need some array. What do you want to call it? TED Talks. And it's an array. So we have some global array. We're going to use pieces to what we call instantiate, to make objects. I'm going to say down here, TED Talks I is equal to new. You say the word new, and then you say the name of the class, TED class. And that means you're using the constructor. And then we want those pieces of information. And here's what we have to look at. And I usually am nice. So it was the rank and the title, rank title, author time, because the order matters. There it is, the time, then the number of views, then the description, views, description, and then the YouTube code at the end. Okay. So it is the same. We got the same order in our text file as in our class. So it was how many things? I think it was 7 things was our count. Let's look again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 things. But when we got pieces from splitting, and that makes an array. An array start at 0. So it's going to be pieces 0, pieces 1, up to pieces 6. An error is to go up to pieces 7, which doesn't exist, and skip over pieces 0, which is a mistake. Okay. So let me So pieces 0, and then I'm going to copy that. And I copied it and then did something stupid. Copy, Control V, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I don't want a comma for the last one. Comma means more is coming and more is not coming at the end. There's pieces 0, 1, 2 comes after 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 7 things. So now I should have my objects. I'm going to console log my TED Talks. I actually do indeed have them. Oh, let me look at the file. Let me look at the file. No, that's all right. That's more of a JSON. When you have the JSON file, you have to figure out whether the overall thing is an object or an array. It's often an object that has a property that's an array, but this is, we're making it ourselves and we made an array of things. So let me open my console. And Q stuff is not defined. So I screwed something up, 118. I thought I got rid of the Q stuff, but I obviously didn't because I made it TED stuff. All right. Got the number wrong. What was the number? 174. 174. Oh, so it was TED stuff. All right. Thought I did that, but I did not. TED stuff was TED stuff, TED stuff. 3 places in what I was getting out of the split, in my loop, and in my second parsing, my second split. Now I have an array of TED class objects, and there they are. So it seems good so far. All right. Now, what's the standard thing? We load up, we make options and load them up into the select. I can have a separate for loop after I get my objects, or I can have use the for loop I already have. What do you want? A new for loop or the same one? It's a new one. All right, we'll make a new one. Making a new, I don't need TED stuff anymore. I'm going to switch it to, I can use TED stuff because it exists, but I can also switch over to TED Talks, which I think I will. Okay, I need to get my select, which I always call my select. Document, get element by ID. And what did I call it? Cell, probably cell something, knowing me. Cell title. And then I'm going to make an option. That is a create, it doesn't exist. Document create element. It's an option element. Would have been smarter if I had copied one of the times where we've done this before, but I'm just not that smart. Options have text and value. The text, what do we want the text to be? When the page starts, read the text file, make objects. We did that. Then populate the drop-down list with a concatenation of rank and TED Talks. Okay, that's what drives you guys nuts when I make you concatenate. So the text is what? TED Talks. I dot TED rank and maybe a dot and a space and a TED Talks dot TED, probably title, but let's look to be sure. Is it TED rank and TED title? It's TED rank and TED title. I need the I, indeed I do. Otherwise it would try to give me, I don't know what it would do. Probably just fail. It might try to give all of the talks up to me, but, or maybe not. The value, the useful thing, we have an array, the useful thing, how many times am I going to say it, is the index. Not always true, but it's like 95% of the time true. And then we need to add it to the select, or it was all for not. Pen child. So let's see if we have stuff. No, I don't have stuff. Have stuff in there. Reference TED Talks, small t is not defined. So I misspelled. And now there they are. Do schools kill creativity? Probably. All right. So we have populated the list. Okay. InDesign, the page should start with the #1 ranked TED Talk. So that means we can either hard code the stuff or we can dispatch an event. We don't, let's dispatch the event and then we have to go write the event code or we're going to have an error, but my select dispatch event, new event, and for drop down selects, we like the change event. So if you wanted to pick some other talk, you would set the value of my select to some number. But if you want the first one, the 0th one, then you can just go ahead and dispatch the event. And okay, my select, there we go. And now we need to go up to the select and do an on change. Where is that select? Not that select, this select here. Oops, that's not the select I want. Here's the select I want. I want it on change. And we will say, I don't know, show TED. So now I need to make the show TED function. Make sure I'm outside my other function. Not show TED, but show TED. And what do? We grab the value. I usually call it my index. You'll love when if I do this on Monday, it's boring, but you've done it a number of times, so you're going to get it right. Document, get element by ID. What was it? Cell talk. I think. Dot value. And then we want to start displaying some information. What do we want to display? show the author. Let's get the author up there. So I need, here I made a place, I put a span. I didn't have to do that, but I did. I made a span inside the div and I gave it an ID of span author. And so document get element by ID, span author, spans have inner HTML, and we want that to be what? TED Talks, square bracket, my index dot TED author. What did I just say? TED Talks, my index dot TED author. Save that. There, that didn't work. Type cannot read properties of null. So I thought I knew the name. If it says something's null, that usually means a bad ID. So did I call it cell head or did I called it cell title? So when I'm being a good test taker, especially if I've given myself a printout, I write down the IDs of the things on the paper so I can look at the paper rather than scroll up and down like a maniac. Did that fix it? There is. So then there's runtime, number of views and descriptions. That's all boring. Let's go on to the interesting part. The YouTube. Okay, so I believe the iframe. Did I make the iframe? I made the iframe. It has an ID. Does it have an ID? Does not have an ID. I need to give it an ID. Can't do anything with it if it doesn't have an ID. I'll call it IF or iframe. And then should I call it TED? Should I call it talk? Thanks, TED. All right, if TED. So that is document get element by ID. IF TED, that's the iframe. We are changing the source of the iframe. It's not simply the YouTube code. There's something that goes before the YouTube code. What is up there? So I have it. That much of it is always the same. And then we want to add the YouTube code, which is TED Talks my index dot TED YouTube. Especially on old data like this, if some of them don't work, it's me. If they all don't work, it's probably you. So there is Sir Ken Robinson. All right, so our code is good. They might not all work. But they seem at least some of them are working, so that means the code's good. All right. So that was here. Encoder design, blah, okay. And we did the author, we didn't do the runtime, but that's runtime and number of views and description is the same as author, except change the field. So that's boring. Have code that will clear out the search text area when the page is refreshed. Okay, so that is when you start the page, which is populate. So the page starting is that on load, and we want the text area cleared. So that's 16. Write the code that go at the bottom here. We want, what is the text area? Here's the text area. And does it have an ID? It does. Text area TA cart. And we want to be here on populate. Clearing the text box doesn't have anything to do with the data. So we can do it outside of the fetch. We could do it inside the fetch, that would be okay, but we can do it outside of the fetch because it's got nothing to do with the actual data. That's an important distinction we have to make. Does it depend on the data? It goes inside the fetch. Fetch then, it goes inside one of the thens. If it doesn't involve the data, we can move it outside. For text areas, I've always had better luck with value than with inner HTML. Both strictly speaking work, but I've always had, more control with value. And if you have multiple lines, if you're using value, then you're also using \n. So this was value equals quote, quote. There was nothing in there for me to test this, but if I want to test it, I put something in there and see if it's there. It's not there. We cleared it when the page refreshed. If we didn't have that code, we would see poop, but we don't see poop, so we cleared it. You often assume that you can't write the clear code if you don't have anything to clear. Put something in to clear, or write clear code and get those points and just hope it's right at least, but always try. Okay. When the user clicks the button, determine the low and the high numbers. I don't even know if I have a button. I just have something that says button, so let's turn that into a button. And we're going to say find talks or something like that. And on click, that's what we do to buttons, is click them. I'll just say find, or no, I'll say find talks. Okay. And we need to write that function. And I'm running out of time, but let's at least start function. That's another thing to get an easy point. You often get a point for just writing a function that handles something, even if it doesn't do anything. If you have the function that corresponds to the click, throw an alert in it or throw a console log in it, you'll get the point for setting up the function, even if the function doesn't work. We want to get a low and a high off the page. So document get element by ID something dot value. What is the, I gave you these selects, cell min, cell max. The high and the low. It's a search. We're searching over TED Talks for something. We're running out of time. A search is always a loop and an if. So let's start a loop, maybe get an if. Show me what you do know, what you can do. So for let I equal 0, I less than, what are we calling them? TED Talks. There, that's an array, so it has a length. So there is the loop of my search. Maybe I will say let match. Maybe I'm going to find a bunch of them. So I'm going to have this. And then I'm going to have some kind of if in here. And I don't know what that is yet. Okay, so try to come back. But what are we going to do down here? We're going to loop over this. We're going to say if, when we're outside of the loop, we're going to say if the length of the match array is 0, we'll say, sorry, we didn't find anything. Otherwise, we're going to display in the cart, display matches in cart. Okay. So get the things that are standard and easy. The if's going to be hard because it is we don't have simple numbers for the times of the text talks, TED Talks. So this is not the standard search. So, but it says if we use parse int on the runtime property, we will get the property in minutes. So let's do that. Let's say, let the time, let the time equal what? TED Talks I dot, what was that property? TED time. And then they told me to parse int it. And then alert it. What you do when you're running out of time, you do the easy stuff and get points. So it told me to do this, so let's do what it told me to do, even if I don't know what to do with it, or I don't have time to do anything with it. All right, here are my TED Talks, 20, 20, 15. Those are the lengths of my TED Talk. I know the time. It might help me to parse in these as well. And then I want to do a between. A between is an and. So I want to say if low is less than the time and the time is less than high, and one of those should be less than or equal, then push something onto match. Match, push. Can't spell, I'm trying to rush it too much, and then I'll just say something. All right, probably the name, the title of the TED Talk. But I'm also modeling what to do at the end of a test. If you're getting somewhere, then jump around and do the easy things, but also do the things that are points. You know, a search is a loop with an if. Give me a loop with an if. The if might be complicated. Comment it out so you don't lose syntax points for code that doesn't work. Yeah, I always give like 3 points at the end for syntax, and that means if it runs without causing errors, look at the console. If it runs without getting errors, you're going to get those syntax points. I'm out of time. See you Monday. I'm around the weekend. If you have questions, don't assume I'm going to get to grade everything and I'm going to answer your questions that way. If you have questions, you need to get a hold of me explicitly. Ask them. Subjects and emails should say help in capital letters with exclamation points. All right. It's been a pleasure for the most part.
See you.
Not usually. That's too much. Stop. I don't think I stopped recording. Oh my.